Crows don't mourn their dead, they investigate them. That's the actual finding, and it's stranger than the version most people have heard. Here's the clearest evidence for it. A researcher named Kaeli Swift, working out of the University of Washington under a biologist named John Marzluff, spent 2 years running an experiment across more than 100 sites in Washington state. She'd set up a feeding station, let the local crows get comfortable with the routine, and then change one thing. A person in a mask would walk up holding a dead crow. Not a real one, taxidermied. But to the crows, apparently, close enough. The reaction was instant. Within seconds, the alarm calls started. That sharp, repetitive scolding crows do, and then crows started pouring in from every tree in earshot, mobbing the masked person, screaming, all of them, for several minutes. And then just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The birds scattered and went back to whatever they were doing before. If that was the whole story, you could call it grief and move on. But it's not the whole story. Swift sent the same masked volunteers back to the same spots, over and over, for the next 6 weeks. Empty-handed this time, no dead crow. Nothing in their hands at all. The crows scolded them anyway, every visit. Meanwhile, a volunteer in a different mask could walk right through and barely get noticed, so it wasn't masks in general setting them off. It was one specific mask, the one they'd seen next to a body, and they kept reacting to it for over a month after that body was gone. There's another piece of this worth sitting with. For days after seeing the dead crow, the local birds took noticeably longer to come back and feed at that spot, even with nobody around at all. Then Swift tried a couple of variations to figure out what was actually triggering all this. First, same setup, except a dead pigeon instead of a dead crow. The reaction mostly just didn't happen. A dead pigeon wasn't worth that level of attention to them. Then she tried something else, a dead crow paired with a live hawk standing nearby. That one got an even bigger reaction than the dead crow alone, which makes a certain kind of sense once you think about it. A hawk is an actual predator. A dead crow next to a hawk isn't just a body anymore, it's a body with a likely explanation attached. So it wasn't simply dead crow equals alarm. It was specifically their own kind, dead, that mattered, and the presence of a plausible predator on top of that made the whole scene more urgent, not less. So what's actually going on here isn't closure. It's more like a record being made. The crows seem to be working through a specific set of questions: what happened? Who was nearby? Is this place still okay to use? And the mobbing probably does something else too. It's loud enough that crows who weren't even there get pulled into the warning secondhand just by hearing the commotion. There's an earlier study, also out of Marzluff's lab, that gets at what might actually be happening inside a crow's head during something like this. Researchers showed crows 2 different masks. One had been worn previously by someone who'd captured and banded them genuinely unpleasant from the crow's side of things. The other belonged to someone who'd just shown up and fed them for 4 straight weeks, no drama. They injected the birds with a glucose tracer while they were alert and looking at one mask or the other, then sedated them afterward to actually scan the brain. The dangerous mask lit up something called the nucleus tenea of the amygdala, which is, roughly, the bird brain version of the amygdala in mammals, the same region that handles fear in a human brain. Crow brains and human brains split apart evolutionarily a very, very long time ago. And yet, when a crow looks at something it's learned to be afraid of, something structurally a lot like our own alarm system seems to switch on. None of this rules out crows feeling something during all this that we just don't have a way to measure yet. Maybe they do. The research can't speak to that one way or the other. What it can say, pretty clearly, is that the gathering itself, the screaming, the mobbing, all of it has a job to do that has nothing to do with sentiment. It's reconnaissance. Spread out, shared, and weirdly durable, passed along even to crows who weren't there for the original event at all, just from hearing the others sound the alarm. A crow standing over one of its own isn't paying its respects. It's running through the same checklist its species has been running for who knows how long. What killed this one? Who was standing nearby? And how do I make sure it isn't me next? If this is the kind of thing you're into, Something Stirs does this every week. Subscribing just means you'll actually see the next one show up.